The FN Model 1910. Let's check it out. The FN Model 1910 has a very sordid history. It was used by military and police all over the world and began production in 1910 and went all the way until 1983, a gun that was far ahead of its time. Of course, this is one of the John Browning designs, which they seem to be pretty timeless. But what really makes the FN Model 1910 famous is that it started World War I. It was used in the assassination of the Archduke Ferdinand of Austria and his wife, and it set off a massive chain of events. But it was also used to assassinate the French president, Paul Doumer, in 1932, and then was used in the assassination of Huey Long, which was the governor of Louisiana, in 1935. So while there have been a lot of firearms that have been instrumental in history, the Model 1910 is right up there at the top. Now, I found this Model 1910 at a local gun show. And guys, I love to bring historic firearms to you guys. With all the polymer striker fire pistols and the modern designs. They're great, but there's something about these old designs that just have a lot of soul to them. And we really appreciate our Patreon family for allowing us to have the funds to be able to purchase guns like this to bring to you guys. Well, for its time, it was a very elegant pistol, and the Model 1910 FN. This was introduced to Colt. Colt was producing the 1903 hammerless, which was a very popular design. This was actually supposedly an upgrade, a little smaller pistol, but Colt wasn't interested, so FN began to produce these. They're in Belgium. Now, this again has a sordid history of assassination, but it's a very elegant, to me, beautiful pistol. All steel. It's a blowback, and it has a striker firing system in it. And one of the big changes with this design is that it had the recoil spring wrapped around the barrel. So that really brought down the bore axis to be very low. It's a very pointable handgun and really sweet to shoot in 32 ACP. Now, this did come in 380 ACP as well. We have 7 rounds of 32 ACP plus 1, and then we have 6 rounds of 380 ACP. Now, let's make sure the gun's unloaded. We have a Hill-style mag release, which is European, but it does come up the spring. So when you're releasing this, if you have your hand against it, it makes it a little difficult to pull out. But again, a 7-round magazine, all steel, and then we'll check the gun is unloaded. Now, this was really a pretty new design. There were some things about this that, again, made it better than the Model 1903, but in some aspects, you know, the 1903 is just a better shooter. But this is a much smaller handgun. Again, used by a lot of police units, quite a bit in the military during World War I and World War II. I mean, it just has just a very rich history behind this handgun. Now, these were produced all the way up until 1983. So from 1910 to 1983, I mean, it's amazing that this held for that long. Now, Browning did start to produce these, and they were brought into the U.S. in 1955. So the Browning Model 1955 is pretty much the exact same gun, just with Browning markings. And in 1968, of course, the Gun Control Act came into effect, and these were extended barrel length. They had target sights put on. The grip was extended to make it a target grip, and it had a little bit of a pinky rest. So that really kind of changed the face, but it still had that exact same design. The barrel length is 3.14 inches or 80 millimeters. Now this does have a number of different safeties. We have our frame safety right here. It's very rudimentary. It just fits up into the slide itself. And then we have a magazine disconnect safety. So if you remove the magazine, you can't fire the gun no matter what. It will not fire, which I despise these, but a lot of these were typical for European designs. And a lot of police units required that. It also has the grip safety, and so this has to be depressed to be able to fire the pistol. One thing about large hands, sometimes it's difficult to get that and depress it. But this seemed to be really easy to depress, and again, that was just part of the original designs of these pistols. Magazines, they're fairly hard to come by, but Triple K in the past has made magazines for these, replacement mags, and you could probably find them fairly easily. I've seen quite a few of these around. This one was in excellent condition. There was a Browning sitting right next to it that wasn't in such good shape, and then once I realized the history behind the model 1910, I chose the 1910 because FN produces some really good quality guns. And again, this is a John Browning design. Very thin. I love how this kind of scallops up, so it just takes away a lot of the room. And again, it's because of that recoil spring system that allows that. You have an external extractor, and we have some typical serrations for this era of handgun. I also have one of the FN, and this is their model 1905 or 1906. It's in 25 ACP, but a lot of the same design features are in the model 1910. But this is obviously a much smaller little pocket pistol. Now, one of the things that led this particular handgun to fame was in Belgium during World War II in 1943. It was called the Attack on the 20th Convoy, and a German convoy was taking Jews to Auschwitz concentration camp, and this was used to liberate 233 people off of that train. Now, only 118 actually survived because the rest were either shot or they were killed while they jumped off the train. So this has a really strong place in history and is in display in a Belgian museum even today. When it comes to the 1905-1906, it was the predecessor to the Baby Browning. And of course, this is really tiny, pretty legendary because it's so small. And these are just beautifully made handguns. But this is what led up to the Baby Browning. So it seems like that these designs, and of course there was very turbulent times, and they were very prominent in a number of different actions, even though they're just small handguns. Because of the recoil system, these led to the PPK and also to the Makarov. The bluing is very well executed. That's one of the things that I love about these older firearms, and a lot of times you're going to find them with a lot of pitting and different problems that are with the finish because of the way that they were stored. This really came out beautifully. One thing too about the sights, it's a very point and shoot type firearm. We have a small notch at the back. You have serrations all along the top to keep glare down, and then a small little post. This is really for up close and personal. The Archduke Ferdinand was shot at a distance of 5 feet. Then of course we'll take this out to the range and check out the accuracy. It had the kind of plastic grips with the FN logo. Some of the German-made guns, after they confiscated the factory, started putting wood grips on them for a time. But during World War II, none of the FN model 1910s were being produced by the Germans. One of the things also about the 1910 is that there is no magazine hold open, which is typical for a lot of those type pistols back in the day. So this one, when that last round is fired, it's just going to remain in the closed position. Now when it comes to the trigger, you'll notice this lip that protrudes out of the side, and it does it on both sides. It gives it a little more surface to be able to put the pad of your finger. You have to make sure that the grip safety is depressed and a magazine has to be inserted. So we have take up to about right here. We have a lot of resistance right in here, and then we have the break. It's not really a super strong trigger pull. Let's go with reset right there. So reset's fairly quick. Okay, let's check the trigger pull weight. It's about 7 pounds. We've got to make sure we depress the grip safety, so we're going to try it one more time. Again, right at 7 pounds. When it comes to weight to the model 1910, 20.2 ounces. To give you a comparison, here's your 9mm. We have 380 ACP, and then we have 32 ACP. Of course, 9mm is really considered the most popular self-defense option out on the market, and of course it would be jacketed hollow points. 380 ACP, less recoil. You can get really good self-defense ammunition, and it's really considered the minimum for self-defense, for adequate self-defense. Your 32 ACP, used in Europe for years, and a lot of US guns were made in 32 ACP. But it's fairly an anemic round. You can get some jacketed hollow points and some different rounds. I wouldn't recommend shooting them in something like this, but there are some options out there. And it's just a smaller bullet weight moving at less feet per second even than your 380 ACP and definitely your 9mm. But the recoil is very mild and it makes it really pleasant to shoot. Now guys, if you're really interested in a lot of the history that goes behind this firearm and also many others, check out CN Arsenal. They have a great YouTube channel where they really get into a lot of details. And Othias, who runs the channel, a good friend of mine, also May, who does a lot of their shooting. They're just great guys, and they really do some high production videos around vintage firearms. We really appreciate Fiocchi for sponsoring the ammo, all made in the USA. One of the #1 suppliers of ammunition in the country. And for the past 30 years, I've been buying Fiocchi, especially some of their obscure stuff, military, different calibers, and it's just a great ammo company. And this also allows us to shoot quite a bit with each firearm. The FN model 1910. Here at the range, it's just a lot of fun to shoot. All steel. The 32 ACP is low recoil. I wouldn't say that it's lightweight, but it's a small, thin handgun. Very natural to point, and definitely made to shoot with one hand. 7-round magazine, it goes by fast. Rack in the slide, not a big deal. Just a very handy little firearm. I mean, it's just got that really old school feel to it, and I love it. Again, 7 rounds, it doesn't take long, but we've had no reliability issues whatsoever. Sometimes we have in the past with some of these older ones. No last round hold open on the magazine. You get what you get, but great little firearm from the history, and what a story. I mean, what a story for this firearm. And that just makes it that much more cooler. Because we know it's all about cool. Now for disassembly, we're going to take our magazine, go ahead and drop it, check the chamber, and the gun is empty. Now there is a notch right here, but we're not going to go to it first. So what we're going to do is, right here there is a bushing that goes around the barrel. And you can do this after you release the slide, but it's easier to do it this way. And you can see that there are 2 notches on either side. Now this was actually made to take your thumb and push down and turn it. It's locked into a key. But there are these 2 notches that a tool you could fit in and turn it as well. We're going to have to use a screwdriver because we don't have it. And you want to be really careful when you're doing this. But I like to give it a little bit less tension right here. And then I'm just going to turn this really slowly. And it actually pushes down into the slide. So there we go, we're turning it. Now it's under spring tension, so you have to be careful or this will come flying out. And so then we can pull our spring, but I don't like to pull it because it will stretch it. So next what we're going to do is just bring it back and then just turn the barrel. The barrel is actually locked into, well, let's go ahead and pull the spring off. Now take your barrel and just rotate it. And when you feel it release, then you can let go right here of your slide stop and then just push this on out. And then we're going to turn it back and you can just pull it straight out. It's a little tricky, and there is a little cutout right here in the slide where the barrel, when it goes in, and we'll show when we get ready to reassemble. But you have to actually turn that into this little notch, just like that. Now, one thing you want to be very careful of is back here at the back, you have your striker or firing pin, and there is a spring. Now, it looks like that this spring has been replaced. So we'll see how this works when we get to the range. And a lot of times there are some aftermarket parts that you can find, but this just fits right in here. Now, if you try to put it in this way, the spring actually retains right here, and then this little notch hooks to the back here of the sear. And this is a lot more difficult to lock this in. So I think that putting it in the slide makes it a lot easier. And of course, this does come out as well. And that's really all you want to do as far as disassembling this handgun. The frame, just very well made. You can see the markings right here, these grooves, and this is where your barrel fits into it. And so this really gives you a solid lockup. And again, this is a blowback design. The slide where we have that channel where you put in your firing pin and spring. But guys, this is old school machining, and it's absolutely beautiful. Now for reassembly, we're going to go ahead and put our barrel back in, and you put it in with the grooves facing up. Once you get it near that slot, you can rotate it. Then make sure you have your striker or firing pin in place with the spring. It only goes in one way with that slot. Then bring it over the frame. You want to make sure that you capture the spring right here with this little cup. Once we get this into place, go ahead and pull this into the back position. Go ahead and lock that around. That'll hold it in place. And then just turn your barrel. And you'll notice that the little extractor channel comes right out of the port, so you know it's in place. Now we're going to release our slide. Bring in your recoil spring. Now you have two little lips that kind of poke out, and this fits on the interior of your slide from the front. So we've got to make sure we coordinate that first, and then we're going to turn it. Now put the bushing over your recoil spring, and there are some corresponding notches in your slide. So we're going to see if we can find it first. There we go. Now take your screwdriver and that little notch and push it down, and it actually recesses a little bit, and then you can turn it. Once you get it turned to that 90-degree angle, you're in place. And for this one, it typically is up and down. Which is not really difficult to do, but it does take a little bit of practice knowing exactly how everything fits. Now, of course, there are different prices, these being on the used market. I paid $600 for this one. I've seen them for a lot more. I haven't seen many that were less unless they have a lot of pitting and, the condition is just kind of poor. As far as parts go, numeric arms, there are different companies that you can find parts at times. Even Gunbroker is a good source. And I found quite a few parts even on eBay. So, there are some things out there, but a lot of times it takes a lot of research. And really, it just means a love affair with these type guns. I mean, they're definitely, really history rich. And so a lot of people really just enjoy having these and collecting them, which I'm one of them. It definitely fits a beautiful place and yet a very ominous place in history. But it's an incredibly well-made firearm, a John Browning design, and something that will just increase in value over time. Of course, the Browning model 1955, that is also an excellent firearm. But the FN does have that historical value to it that just really gives this, again, a lot of soul. So guys, a very historic firearm, again, that was used in a number of different assassinations, plus for police, militaries all over the world. The FN Model 1910 has just been instrumental in shaping history. Of course, whether it's the 32 ACP or the 380 ACP, and this design was made for over 71 years, which is a testament to its ingenuity. And of course, John Moses Browning was a genius and a master. And this is just, again, a testament to his abilities. And again, a big thank you to our Patreon family for their support and allowing us again to bring really cool guns to you guys. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. The Model 1910 has wreaked havoc over history. Wreaked havoc. The Model 1910 was also used in the assassination of Paul Doumer, which was the French president in 1932. It's 32. Obviously, that was what the deal was during World War I. Deal. That's what the deal was. What was the deal in World War I? We had some deals going on. The FN Model 1910, the gun that started World War I. Let's check it out.